Well, happy Sunday night. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. I can't believe there's even people here. It is great to see you tonight. Are you done with watching people fall today? I mean, I haven't watched the Super Bowl. I'm not even sure if the Super Bowl is on yet. To be honest, I didn't know that the Super Bowl was this Sunday. Kirsten alerted me. I honestly had no idea. I thought it was in the fall. It seems to me a bit impractical having it at this time of the year. I know historically it must have always been at this time of year. It seems a little impractical because every fourth year the Winter Olympics are also on the same day. I mean, is that not a notable conflict? I don't know. I am so not a sports person. Um, I didn't know this was happening. I am interested in the Olympics, though I have to say. But I caught a few spectacular falls today between skiing, snowboarding, and the figure skating. Not too bad. Not very exciting, isn't it? Super exciting. Well, it is great to see you, and this is recorded, right? It's lower attendance than usual. Understandably, you are spoiled for choice tonight, right? It reminds me of yesterday. It was so funny. We went out last night. My husband and I went out with my sister and her husband, Tomo. My husband is Dutch. Her husband is German, and we ordered. They were late, so we oh God, we got out of the car. I mean, how about you? It is so cold here that it is like dangerous. Like this was like the cold is not the right word. This is a word that like is doesn't exist in the English language so far. I mean, I was all bundled up. To be honest, I didn't have a hat or a scarf on. But I mean, I had on a winter coat, a sweater, a shirt under the sweater. I mean, this is like full blast winter clothing that I would wear, for example, if I was like going skiing kind of thing. Um, I mean, it was crazy how much clothing I had on, and we drive into Hartford to meet them for a drink before the thing, and before the play. We were going to see a play, and my God, we got out of the car, and it was like, I mean, I know I am not like I'm not a heroic person when I'm uncomfortable. That's for sure. We got out of the car, and it was the combination of I don't know. I mean, it was like 2 degrees. It wasn't like it was minus 20, but the wind was whipping. There were snow drifts, like they were like it was. We were on Cape Cod in the summer, and it was sand dunes. Do you want to say hi?
I got you.
Here
I
she
thought
comes.
you were gonna say
Here she comes. Thank you, my sweet angel. This is my sweet angel right here. Hey,
Hi.
Joss. There's the genius right there. We're having an awesome weekend. Maybe you noticed her Pokemon shirt. We're having an awesome weekend because we managed to 2 days in a row, Joss, go to Pokemon swaps.
What is Pokemon?
Am I saying it wrong?
Pokemon.
Pokemon. Pardon me. You had no idea what I was referring to, right? Because I said it wrong. You had no idea.
Do you like
Sorry.
the pastry? It's the
Yes.
another clay one.
She has brought me, I'm putting together my own, where's my book? I'm putting together my own small book of Pokemon cards because if we go to these Pokemon swaps every weekend, we did one, where's my book? Saturday and Sunday. If we do this often, which I think we probably will, did you see the hostage eyes? I need to have my own book because she does swapping, which is it is so fun and it's great for her confidence, like I told you before. So she feels that I need a book, so I'm not like such a clunky, out of place animal.
I
Um,
never said that.
she didn't say it in those words. So she has
I just
created.
thought you'd like it.
I do like it. So she's created a small book for me, and this is a mini book compared to what she's had. And she has allowed me to choose some cards that I like since I don't play the game and I'm not a knowledgeable collector. Of course, I like a card that is a character that is shaped like a candied apple. And what's his name, Joss?
Diplin.
Diplin. He's a candy apple.
And you got your favorite Pokemon as a sticker.
I do. I have my favorite Pokemon on the front cover. It is Garapalus.
Terapagos.
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 I was close, right?
Yeah, or Pagogo.
Or Pagogo. He evolves. So we happen to notice one. This crafters will take great delight in this. Wait, what category is my one that's a claymation? The bird.
Taylor?
Yeah,
He's over in the
he's in a special section. So there's this one character that's different. I don't know if you can see him here, And I said, why does he look so different than the other cards? And she said, because somebody made these cards using clay, like claymation. Remember, like the Davy and Goliath,
I
or,
have clay with me right now.
So I said, ooh, how cute is that? He's like so crafty, this card. And I said, bring me some more of those claymation cards for my Pokemon book. So I now have Pachirisu. Pachirisu.
I had a Sizzlepede that was a clay one, but I dropped it on my way up and it disappeared into the shadow wall.
Oh, great job losing my Sizzlepede. How cute is that, though, right? He's not really coming in focus, but he's really cute. Is he a fierce fighter? He doesn't seem to have too many attacks. You're going to have to reorder my book, because this one has to go with the other one that's clay. You know, they go in order.
I thought you wanted them to be sorted by type.
No, the clay ones go together. It may be at the end of the book.
You don't want... I just sorted them by type.
I'm sorry. That is the exception. We're getting it together. It was really fun. Anyway, the play was really fun, but all I can say was I didn't think I was going to make it one block from the parked car into the cute little tavern. It's like a 1920s style speakeasy where they make all of their own kinds of alcohol. And yeah, this is very cute. Is this alchemy? This is alchemy, like alchemy, but she's like ice cream, like whipped cream, and she's got strawberries like for ponytails. It's seriously cute though, right? This is a bit Jossie, do you know what kawaii is?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a bit kawaii, isn't it? We've talked about kawaii before. Let's do one moment of kawaii, just in case you have kids. Or Joss, what can I draw that's kawaii?
I can draw something that's kawaii.
Yeah. I'm going to draw something kawaii too. Here's a free pattern. If you like this, do it with me. This is so fun. If you have kids or grandkids or neighbor kids who like Pokemon stuff and sort of the Japan exports like anime and stuff like that, all of this cute stuff tends to look something like this. Here comes the bottom of a cupcake, right? And then Joss, I'll make this into a Pokemon card.
Really? What?
Well, I mean, and then you name the Pokemon. Like you name what this Pokemon would be.
Sure.
I'm making it all swirly like this on the top. It can't be called alchemy, obviously, because there's already one called alchemy. And kawaii faces usually have the eyes really low and really far apart like that. So you need them really far apart. And I forget what kind of mouths, just like really wide mouths, right? Like,
sure.
Yeah, I think so. So how does that look, Jess?
Amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad, I gotta say. I'm gonna give eyebrows too. No noses. Big mistake, right? If you're doing like a Japan-esque. There we go. Which Pokemon is that, Joss? I mean, it's a cupcake still. So I'll give it like wings or something, right? It needs some kind of mythical or superhero. I'm gonna get to business in a minute, I swear. Something like that. What could he be called?
I don't know.
Crema Beast?
Sure.
Crema Beast. This is Crema Beast. And what will his attack be? Calorie Blast. Can it be Calorie Blast?
Go ahead.
Attack, Calorie Blast. Does he have a secondary attack?
I don't know.
See, everything Pokemon is under copyright, as you can well imagine, right? So if you have a Pokemon lover in your life, particularly a younger one, because this is a very by the book one because she's older, I bet they would love this kind of exercise where you make up very literal. Yeah, Crema Blast. Crema Beast. His attack is a Calorie Blast. And he can also gas attack. He can give a gas attack if you eat too much, right?
I make up Pokemon.
Da-da-da. Okay, I'm starting content now. Pokemon talk held for later.
Is there a place I could sit? I want to draw.
Yeah, here, you sit right here. I'll give you a piece of paper. You draw something else. There we go. Anyway, I hope it's not as cold in your life as it was in mine last night. It really was. It was beyond crying cold. It was like I felt like I was crying blood, and that it was freezing in my eyes before it had a chance to drip onto my cheeks. Everything was freezing. I felt like my eyes were frozen. It was just awful. The first thing I thought was, no wonder there are so many people who are unhoused, dying all over the country, because it is so cold that it's dangerous. In fact, the whole time we were sitting and eating, we had very nice cocktails, and that's very warming, as you can imagine. And we ordered like a charcuterie board and hummus, just because before the play, a few things. And it really was fun, but they gave us so many of these little pickles that were so tart. It was like, I mean, I love a good tart pickle. I love a bread and butter. I love a proper dill. I love any kind of pickle. This was like no other pickle I've had, and they were like little bitty ones. Maybe they were peppers. Were they pickles or peppers? I guess they were pickles. Anyway, I made a joke with my sister because they must have given us like 40 of these little pickles. I said, I think we have an embarrassment of pickles happening here because I'm not sure if there is a plural for pickles, right? Who knows?
Pickles.
Anyway, I spent the whole time we were sitting down last night panicking about crossing the street to the theater because I thought, will we survive? It was that kind of cold. Honestly, it was. I'm not being a baby. It was like, I mean, my first instinct was to drop to the ground and roll into a ball and hope that someone like I figured I would just lose consciousness and someone would rescue me or take me to the hospital or something. I felt like I couldn't walk. That kind of cold. Really, really awful. Melissa, how is it in Canada? Happy Sunday night. I've heard that you are not getting this kind of cold, and I find this ironic, really. Although you have gotten it all the time, right? So maybe you need a break, and it came our way. Cheryl, how is it going on Cape Cod? Is it a good cold night there too? Kaz, great to see you in Wisconsin. I bet you are getting it big time. Catherine, you are not, are you, in Southern California? You are there watching the big game. So who is playing tonight? Is it like what Jossie, do you know what some football teams are? I mean, I know the Patriots, obviously. I think that the Bears are a football team. Am I right about that? What are some other football teams?
I'm not into football. I don't know.
Gosh, I don't think I can name any other football teams, honestly. Aryan, do you know any football teams?
Not a
No.
family for football.
He's Dutch. So sometimes we don't, sometimes we know the name of a team, but we don't know if it's like soccer or baseball or football. The Cardinals? No, that's baseball, isn't it? Huh. Um, you'll tell me. You'll tell me who's playing tonight, and I hope it's your team, and I hope they win. Happy cocktail night. And Diane, great to see you. Happy Sunday night from North Central Illinois. Hope everyone is well. Yes, just too scared to go outside. Luckily, when we had to leave the pub last night, I struck up a conversation with the woman who I know is the owner because I've been there once before. And I noticed her kind of patrolling the tables and checking with everyone. And as we were leaving, I said, as I always do if I know who the owner is, like, oh, what a nice place. We had such a nice time. Everything was wonderful. Everything was perfect, as many nice things as I can. And she was like, oh, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah. She said, where are you headed now? And I said, we're headed over to the Hartford stage. And she said, oh, let me take you out the sneaky way, out the back door. So it cuts off like the entire block. You just literally cross and the theater's right. And I said, oh my God, I think you might have actually saved our lives. I'm not kidding. It was that cold. God, it's been awful. Judy Tompkins in Queensland, Australia. Well, you are getting the opposite. Are you having a nice summer over there? That sounds wonderful. Happy Sunday night, Judy. Jessica, great to see you. Happy Sunday night. Jessica, are you so excited for the next magpie to come out? It is getting cobbled together at the very last stages. And of course, Jessica, I know you saw the video and I've shown the piece here on the channel. Jessica hooked the cover image that was designed by Karen Garby and Kirsten Gay. Jessica hooked this extraordinary cover of these llamas having a tea party. It is exquisite. Jessica, I bet you're super excited to have that come out because it's coming out very, very soon. Oh, Joss, look at some of the buddies are saying hi to you. New Moon,
Hi.
great to see you. When it's so cold, it clings to you even after you. Oh, that is so true. It is so you're so I felt like it was so I've never had this feeling before because I never do like polar bear plunges or anything like that. And I avoid, situations where like I'm so cold that like my face hurts. I avoid those situations at all costs, no matter what. But this was kind of unavoidable because of the theater tickets. And man, did my face, it immediately, within honestly 5 seconds, it hurt so much that it felt like it was burning. And I've heard that from people who do that polar bear plunge, like jumping into the water in the middle of winter. I've heard people say that it is so shocking that your body like goes into shock and you actually get hot. You're freezing cold and then it switches and you're very hot. It was kind of like that. It was like freezing, freezing cold, and then it felt really hot, and I thought, oh my God, am I going to lose my face? Like It was, oh God, it was so bad. And you're right. I felt like my pants were wet when I got inside. Like the legs were, they weren't wet at all. I was 100% dry, but I felt like my clothing was wet because it was so icy. I felt like my hair was so cold that it would have broken like spaghetti, just like, it was, oh, it's awful. It's just awful. We need to stay inside. Juju Needlewise, hello, good to see you. This is going to be a great catch-up show because these bug rugs are not to be missed, and you are missing like half of them, more than half of them, compared to the number of them that are in the book. Because I know a lot of you are picking up the book from either Leslie Knight in Canada or Gail Dufresne in the U.S. Oh my God, you're making some beautiful sketches, Joss. Love, she's right here. She's right here with me, my little love. Uh-oh, what did I do? Okay, no,
Oh
I got
gosh.
this. I know. That was a mistake. I'm not going to do that again. Changed my screen, but we're back. Look at the fire instead. All new Pokemon from when your kids were in their early 30s. Isn't it funny how long this franchise has lasted? When did it start, Joss? Like the 90s?
1995.
1995. Well, I knew it wasn't earlier because I was too old for it, right? So it never hit me. Not even like when I was older did it hit me. But it is funny how they I was going to say are evolving, which is a very literal Pokemon term. But isn't it exciting to see whether it's interesting or not, or you're interested in the collecting or not? It's interesting to me for a few reasons. The language is very complex, and the names of the characters are usually like hybrid names that hint at what the character can do. I think that's very good for English language skills. I'm going to make it really uninteresting fast, aren't I? If I keep going like this. I also think it's
No, I
interesting.
can think of some examples of that. Almost all Pokemon are just two words mashed together.
Yeah.
Like, let me think of an example, even though it's literally all of them. Just the most basic one,
Yeah.
Bulbasaur.
Bulbasaur is like a bulb.
And Dinosaur.
And dinosaur, yeah. So they're squished together. It's like when we're stuck in traffic and we're like late for something and I get disappointed. Like I'm PO'd and I'm disappointed at the same time. It's like that. If I were a Pokemon, it's a mashed up word. It's a hybrid word. I think it's very good for language. And the fact that so many of the cards are different artists, well, different styles, but also different artists. And Joss, you know who some of the artists are, right? Like
Yeah, my
you can
favorite
recognize their cards.
Hikaru Koike. I really like
Yeah, this is great for getting kids involved in art. Like there's many different styles. They are familiar with the artist's name. I mean,
is it bad I could probably name 1,000 out of all 1,025 Pokemon? Also, do you like my creatures? This is an existent Pokemon, Mienshao. It's actually the one on this little box. This guy? Yeah. I don't like him.
I like them. These look at these guys. They're so cool. I like this one. Are they all real Pokemon?
No. Only this one, Mienshao, is an actual Pokemon.
Okay, so these two are fictional? These two. So you could make those into hooked rug designs. Because she's thinking about doing some rug tufting. And if she does, that'll be good for us because we can look and document and learn. And I have a problem with time. Joss has a little more time. I think you should make those designs because they look like real Pokemon. I think you should make those as rugs, and people might like to have those designs, right, for other kids.
Can you give me an
animal? Yeah, go ahead, baby. All right, Gumby and Pokey, that's it, Diane, that's it. That's exactly what I was thinking of. There used to be a show years ago called Gumby.
I know Gumby.
Oh, okay.
The little green dude?
Yeah, the little green dude, and his horse was named Pokey. What color was Pokey?
No clue.
Orange. Yeah, he was reddish orange. He was like a tomato color. But they were claymation. And you remember claymation, like how that looked, like, early animation? God, it was so cool, wasn't it, at the time? I should get some clay right here. Everything old is new again, right? It's true. It's all coming back.
Or an object?
An eel.
I've made an eel.
Okay, well, I have to run a show right now.
All right.
Ask Papa, maybe he can shout out, because I do love having her sit next to me. She hardly ever does, right? Gail, great to see you in Australia. Good morning, my love. Happy Monday morning. Happy Monday. Diane, Gumby, and Pokey. And hi, Joss. Oh, look, Joss, everyone remembers you, even though we don't see you very often. And Paula, oh, great to see you. 78 in Southern California. God, that sounds luxurious right now. Oh, my gosh, Diane, you're 40s all week in Illinois and Wisconsin border. That's fantastic. I forgot what extreme heat felt like when you've been in the zeros and negatives for so long. I don't remember so long. I don't remember fall. This has been an extreme year, hasn't it? And in one regard, I know we're all having a different experience. In one regard, I love driving around and seeing so much snow on the ground for so long because I feel like it really is winter, and it's been such a long time since I've looked out at the mountains and the distant views. It's not on the road, right? And thought, my God, it's really winter this year, isn't it? When you live in a part of the country where you can expect four seasons and then you go like years without having four seasons, it is kind of exciting and nostalgic if you survive, right? If you survive. Fingers crossed for everyone. Jessica's very excited about Magpie. Me too. Yeah, there's two Australians on right now. That is exciting. I think Pokemon help my kids to socialize and read. Thank you. I completely agree with that. This whole swapping thing and meeting other kids who are like new, strangers and new. I think this is incredible for self-confidence. Judy says, "Hi, Gail." Oh, you're catching up with each. You're figuring out where you are. Too long. Want to go back to Queensland. Oh, okay, great. Oh, make some plans. Nice job. Great drawings. They are beautiful drawings. Looks like we have a cute giraffe coming our way next. So I hope it's been a great weekend for you, and thanks for joining me tonight. I know you have a lot of choices tonight. It really is a remarkable TV night. I wonder if you've been watching a little bit of the Olympics today. It is fun and it's exciting, isn't it? It is heartbreaking though. Did you see the girl this morning fall on skis, the American skier, and she ended up fracturing her leg, which is so sad. It's so scary watching it live. I'm going to watch it after the show too because I feel like a bit more insulated. I just feel like if something awful happened, I don't know that they would show anything like really awful live. Canned live, they can't help it, right? So I feel good going back in and watching it later and seeing what I missed because it was hard seeing that fall and the snow and everything. And I thought, first of all, is she I, I, I mean, it was a bad fall. You know what I was thinking. But I was very sorry to hear that she just, fractured her leg because that's probably so sad. But the end of her career, hopefully not. But it's bad, isn't it? But it's not as bad as other things, right? And these are dangerous sports that we're seeing. So it is exciting, but oh my word, it is also very, very tense. You're not done yet? Okay, sorry. Well, so we're looking at bugs. She's making Pokemon. We're looking at bugs.
I love bugs.
We are looking at bugs.
Can I bring my painting of a bug?
Yes, bring it. Oh my God, your painting is so good. Yeah, bring your painting of a bug. Indeed, the thumbnail that I used for this show is a painting of bugs that I made. It's in the Ribbon Candy Hooking Store. It's been there for a while. Never talk about it because it's so random. I made that when I was a freshman in college. So that was like 1990. The thumbnail for today. It's not one of the bug designs in this book. I just was in a bit of a rush. So I thought bugs. And I thought, okay, I've got some bugs. Let me just put them up because if you noticed, I just put the link up for the show like an hour ago and we had just gotten home from my mom's. So I want to look at a few more bugs together. And if you like this conversation and you are inspired by these rugs, here's another beetle for you. This is a little painting that Joss did. You can get these canvases. This is 1.5 inches, I would think, maybe 2 inches. Little 2-inch canvas, a little bit of a shadow box too. What a great thing to have around. Talk about inspiration. Just like a tiny little canvas. What's great about stuff like this is if you are a primitive rug hooker and you say to yourself, I like to do my own designs, but I always draw stuff that's too complicated. And I kind of like foil myself. I set up an impossible situation for myself because I always draw stuff that's too complicated. Get something like this. Make a tiny painting on it, blow it up, and make that your rug design. Because if you're working on something this small, you will not be able to make it so fussy that you can't hook it primitive. That really is a good tip. I always say Post-it notes, and I often use Post-it notes for primitive designs that I don't want to allow myself to get over detailed, right? Which I always do, like kitchen sink, right? I'm throwing everything. But you could go even smaller to, this might be under 2 inches actually, but you could go small like this, right? And you would be guaranteed to have a simple enough design that you would be able to hook it with a really wide strip. I love that bug too. And yeah, thanks. I was thinking about that bug painting because of this book. My husband said to me today, remember about the bug painting, and I had forgotten about it because I did it when I was 18, But we had put it into the store because my sister unearthed it somehow, before the move, and she loved it. She always loved it. And I hated it, right? Because it reminds me of like college and stress and first year and all that. So she framed it and she's got it up in her house now. So I hardly ever think about it unless I go there and I see it framed and I think, why do you want that thing framed? But it is quite nice. And technically it was a very good design. And we were saying in the car, it would make a good full-size rug. Like it's, larger, it would be larger beetles and they're different colors. It would make a nice full-size rug. So we're deciding how large to offer it in the Ribbon Candy Hooking store just as a pattern. Could be quite small. I think it's 12 by 20 right now or something like that.
No, 20 by 14. Yeah.
20 by 14. Yeah, it can't be 12 because it's, yeah. But I think we'll make it quite big too, as wide as that giant bolt of linen. I've got not a bolt, but the big roll. Just in case anyone wants a bug rug, right? That kind of a bug rug. But the whole reason I was thinking about bugs is because we've been talking about this extraordinary book that was curated by Leslie Knight and Yvonne Eiten-Scott, and it is called Magnificent Bugs and Rugs. This is the third episode where we look at it, and we have tended to, in the two prior episodes, look at a piece and go, oh my God, like what's going on in that piece that makes it so successful, that makes the composition so exciting? Because if you think about it, if you're given the task of illustrating a bug, right, like a bug, you're probably going to go, oh my God, I said I would do this bug, but what am I going to do? Oh, is Teddy coming to say hi? Here he goes. Hey, Ted, you're on camera.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Do you having a good weekend, my man?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's having a good weekend. He's disappointed because one of your buddies has a half day tomorrow, but you have a half day on Tuesday.
Nah. Kind of happy for him, to be honest. It's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah, I don't really care too much.
You're seeing if anyone says hi to you. It takes a minute. I think you have a half day on Tuesday, baby.
Yeah, and also I think on Friday. I don't know.
Maybe. Is it a long weekend? Is it the holiday weekend this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a holiday weekend this weekend.
Flare-off. It's
okay.
A steel and
and then
fire,
I'm gonna get back to it.
Fire giraffe, and then I'm gonna make him an evolution.
Love you, Ted. Steel and fire giraffe. That is absolutely flare off. Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
And you made up the drawing and the name.
Yeah. I'm making him an evolution.
She's unreal. I'm telling you, she's unreal.
Short.
So the thing about this exhibit, I can't wait to see the evolution. The thing about this exhibit, we saw it at Tigger. If you went to Tigger Niagara Falls, and I know it's traveled to some other places, the two curators are Canadian, right? They were part of the last Tigger board. The thing about this book is this is a very small print book, right? So this is like a self kind of press thing. So if you want it, you should get it sooner rather than later because Leslie has a stack, and I think Gail Dufresne still has some, but she sold a lot in the last couple of episodes. The thing about this book that's so interesting to me is when you think about illustrating a bug, some people will think about, this is a composite design, right? So this is many bugs for the cover design, but most of the designs that we are seeing, as you know, are just one bug, like this thorn bug, right? We're gonna look at the next one in just a second. It's a single bug. So the question becomes, if you are going to illustrate something, you're making your own design, you're going to illustrate a single bug, how are you going to do that to make it interesting? How can you make a composition out of a single bug, or maybe a couple of the same bug, and make it really riveting and sort of engaging and have a storytelling quality to it? Well, it's hard, right? It's hard to think it and to plan it. But the thing about looking at all these compositions is that in looking at them, you see the solution to that problem. How do you illustrate a composition of a singular bug? You see so many different solutions to that. And if you've seen the prior two episodes looking at this book, we're looking at some of them, not all of them, because a lot of you are ordering. I hope that you'll order the book, get it while you can kind of thing. But it's a great sort of intellectually stimulating book because it answers a lot of questions about composition, right? Difficult questions about composition. And I think that's one of the reasons we've been enjoying it so much. The compositions are so clever, but also there's a lot of mixed technique from one to the next. And that's interesting for us to talk about too, because in a lot of them, people will say like, oh, what's that? I haven't seen that before. What is that technique? And then that puts us down that rabbit hole where we say, well, you know what that is. And that's not hard to do, right? This is how you do it. So this book is functions as a storytelling book for kids about these bugs. but it also functions as a how-to book, an inspiration book, a sampler of different styles and different techniques. You don't always get that in one book, right? So let's see where we left off. Oh, Teddy, you got some of your buddies saying hi to you, honey. And shading, that's right, Diane. Color and shading, oh, beautifully done I thought you meant in the book, but on your design too. This child is just so talented. It's bonkers. It's bonkers. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, we left off at this water bug. Do you remember this? This was Janine Brocious. My screen did it again, Joss.
There's a Pokemon that's a water bug.
Oh, is there a Pokemon that's a water bug?
Surskit and Masquerade.
Surskit. Surskit. I wonder what that's short for. Like what bugs that's referring to.
I think
Surskit.
skit is because surf is because it like surfs around on the water.
Oh, surf.
It stays on the top.
Okay, surf skit like skitters.
Skit.
Yeah.
Surskit.
Skit. Surf skit. Well, that's, yeah.
No, it's just surskit. That's
Surskit.
my guess.
Sur means on in French, like on top of something.
Oh.
I'm looking for this bug and I'm not finding it. Hang on. I know that this is Janine, right? This is Janine Brocious because I remember us talking about it. Hang on. Let me find the place in the book so that, okay, there we go. This is water boatman. Do you remember? This is water boatman. Let's make sure that this is the last one that we looked at. This we looked at in the last episode. So if you want more detail of that and you want to hear about that piece, tune into the last episode. It'll be there for you. Now, this one was really interesting to me. Let's go to, this is some kind of stick insect, right? Jossie, look at that. I know the illustration's small.
Bug.
It's like a stick bug. Yeah, let me see if I can find it. I have a particular love for this one. This is a walking stick, right? And it's like that circle is done in fiber, like it's sewed down. I'll stretch it out for you in a little while, but it's like that pink circle is circling the stick because it honestly looks like it could be the branch of a tree, right? But this is actually an insect, and I'm sure you're aware of these kinds of stick insects. Remember that because this is a children's book, right? That's the intention and that's the format. That Leslie and Yvonne wrote a poem for each of these. So for Walking Stick, the poem goes like this. These insects are experts at keeping still. Discovering one would be quite a thrill. Blending with nature as insect or twig, not sleeping, just resting, this insect's gig. No mate required to lay her eggs. To escape a predator, they lose their legs. Oh, you're kidding. Regenerating limbs, a feat so rare. This defensive trick is beyond compare. Well, it is. That really is something. Isn't nature astonishing? Let me see where, hold on, let me find this one in our book because at the back of the book is where, there it is. Oh my gosh, how did I not recognize this style? We have talked about this artist a lot this year. Last year I went to one of her shows in New York State. The year before I went to one of her shows in Boston. Do you remember? Mary Tooley Parker from Yorktown Heights, New York, U.S. So in New York, U.S., obviously, I don't need to say U.S. when I say New York, right? But if you remember, I've done a few shows about her. I've spoken to her. We've looked at her work in 2 different venues. She is extraordinary. This looks just like the work that she did. If you remember us doing these shows, I remember that she, as a child, spent summers in Wisconsin. And Kaz, that's because I went to visit you and my buddies in Wisconsin. That's why that struck me, and I'm able to remember that. She spent summers with her aunts in Wisconsin, and all of the work that she did of their houses, blueprints of the houses and views out the window are the most common motifs. Really amazing storyteller, Mary Tooley Parker. So this piece is, I just want to remind you, this is a children's book, right? Officially so. We're not looking at what's the cut, how large is the piece, what are the techniques, is it hand-dyed? What we get is the poem, this gorgeous illustration, and we get to know who made it. And that is the extent of the knowledge. But for example, as I've said before, if you fall in love with this piece and you say, I have got to know more about Walking Stick, then by all means, you should get in touch with Mary Tooley Parker or any of the respective artists, because God, I'm sure that they would love to hear from you, an email to just say, wow, I saw one of your pieces. We were looking at the book. I saw one of your pieces and wow, who wouldn't want to get a message like that, right? So this is such a funny piece because we are getting the view out the window. It's such an sort of innocuous bug. It's like an invisible bug. There he is. It is a thrill to spot him. I gotta say, when I first looked at this piece, even though there's a circle around the bug itself, I didn't immediately get it, right? And then I saw the name of it and I thought, oh my God, of course. So we are seeing classic Mary Tooley Parker view. She's framing it for us, very theatrical framework here. We're seeing out the window. We're getting a little bit of the sill and that kind of dated radio on the sill and a little bit of the curtain. And we see out the view, which is just always rolling ground and water and the trees, right? All of these in every one of her pieces, right? But this piece has the addition of this funny little bug walking stick, and she often gives us a composition that is quite literal, and it is directing our view, right? Just the way your view would be directed standing in a picture window and looking out, right? You are forced to look straight forward, and you accidentally do look beyond walking stick because you're looking at the view, and then it's like an afterthought. Wait a minute. Oh, is that him? Right? Where's the bug? Oh, there he is. And I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. She, if you can see it, if I can make it large enough, because of course this is a picture of a book, not a picture of a piece, a picture of a photo in a book. If you can see this sort of, bye, sweetie, I'll show the evolution. I love spending time with you, hon. It's great to have you here. If you can see that pink circle around it, maybe you can see the tiny bits of hand stitching, just very tidy hand stitching right on top of the loops to circle up walking stick. And, there is something humorous about walking stick kind of just being plastered onto the window like that. He's kind of blocking the view, but so innocuously that he's not very offensive, is he? He's just the cutest little thing. Oh, hey, Kelly, great to see you. Hi, everyone. Bugs never bother me like a mouse would, but I think I now have a new fascination. The Rugs book, it's fascinating. It is. I love the poem aspect. Deanna, you do such an amazing job of sharing. Thank you, Kelly. You know what? This is so easy. There's so much here for me. It's so easy. It's great content. So thank you. Thank you so much. And Diane, I missed, what is the cranberry section on the left? Yep. I think that is wallpaper. Let's go back to that there. Yeah, it's small on your phone. I know it's always small for me too. I think that is, let me make it, I'm going to lift it up a little bit. I think that's cranberry wallpaper. Let me make it small again. I have the new computer, but I haven't switched to it yet. I am almost ready to use it, but at this moment, I'm scared to do much on it, right? I have that kind of forever panic about switching the computer. We've had so much fun with this one. I'm hoping the next one is better. Yeah, I think on one side we see the curtain pull to the side, and on the other side we're seeing like a close-up of wallpaper. I remember from our other pieces that the aunts had very loud wallpaper, like sort of 70s, 60s, 70s vibe to it. So I'm thinking that's an oversized piece of wallpaper. Very cool piece, very different. All the detail that Mary Tooley Parker puts into her pieces, the fact that she would take the time to not just show us the view out the window, but show us what's on both sides of the window and give us this very shallow sill where we see the little radio. She's contemporary. So she doesn't use a radio like this. And she knows we probably don't have radios like this anymore unless you're, a vintage lover. You probably don't have a radio that looks like this, but you remember a radio that looks like this. So she's always giving us these sorts of nostalgic little hat tips to the past. That just feel warm and fuzzy. You go, oh, I remember that. And it helps you picture the good old days at the lake, right? These great eternal summer days by the lake, right? The good old fashioned fun. She shows us the views. She gives us a lot of, I'm going to make it even smaller once more. She gives us a lot of extra information in pieces because how the question always comes up, and we talk about this a lot on this show. The question always comes up in art in general, not just in rug hooking. The question is, if I'm working from, whether it's memory or photography, and Mary Tooley Parker works from both, whether I'm working from memory or photography, what am I going to keep in and what am I going to take out? Right? That is the thing. And we've talked about this when we did getting unzipped because this beautiful fire is making it warm in here. We talked about this when we had our design like 20th century photographer class, and that is a recorded class that you can still look at. We had this conversation during that class when we looked at some of the photographers of the early and middle 20th century. And the question always comes about with photography, particularly at that time. Right now, you can take anything out of the background of a photograph. You can do that with apps, and any piece of stupidness on your phone will take the background that you don't want. Right, the power lines or whatever, the fire hydrant out of the photograph. But back then they didn't have that. So, it is a fairly recent thing that you can be a photographer, right? Think about photographers in the early and middle 20th century. They didn't have that. The main difference between photography and sort of fine art or any other form of art was that the photographer is the only one who cannot remove those superfluous, distracting things that you don't really want in them. Photographers who took street scenes, right? War photographers, travel photographers. You take pictures, and you're not necessarily happy that that person photobombed or that building cuts that thing off, but there's nothing you can do about it because your medium is photography. Well, that's always been different for us, right? As like fiber artists, and same thing for painters, right? We never have this specific hardship because we can take stuff out. And this is one of the things about composition. If you took the straight up color and composition class with me, you remember that we talked about, I have a photograph, I'm working from a photograph. Should I take this out or should I not take this out? Only you can make these kinds of decisions, because your idea of what that piece is going to look like has to be your vision. I can't tell you what to take. I can't tell you to take power lines out of your composition. It depends on what you want in there. Now, Mary Tooley Parker is a great example of this exact conversation, because look, she has got the view out the window. You've got a little bit of the window ledge. You've got the sort of old-time radio. I don't know if that's a transistor that will come with the antenna, right? You've got, I think, a little bit of wallpaper, a little bit of curtain, and then you look out, and it's a bit choppy out there, right? Forget about walking stick. It's a bit choppy out there. We are literally seeing a field of grass first with a little stone wall around it that seems to be like the perimeter of a little garden or maybe a yard, right? And then we're seeing a fence, right? The fence isn't particularly picturesque. Is the fence as picturesque as like the water or the distant sort of island or the tree line across the water? No, it's not as picturesque as that. And she chose to keep the fence in two places. You see it wrap around the second field of green, right? So it's like, would you have kept the fence? Because it does create more sort of visual confusion. Would you have kept the fence? For Mary Tooley Parker, she is all about details in real life. So she likes these extra details that can serve as barriers or maybe visual speed bumps. She likes these. And her work is filled with these, and it's part of what makes her style so relatable, because it is a piece of fiber art for sure. We recognize it as a hooked piece, but it does remind me of 100 photographs I took that CVS processed, where there were elements in the photograph that it was the perfect photograph, except this fence was in the way. You know what I mean? We all have a bunch of those sitting around in boxes, right? And it's different now, right? Because technology is different now. We don't always have that particular complaint. Maybe we have other complaints, or we can think of more fun things to complain about. But that's something we really don't have to deal with in rug hooking design. And it is curious and interesting to find an artist like Mary who consistently will put in all of the details. If there's power lines, you see power lines, right? It's interesting. Across the landscape. Okay, wait a minute. I missed some fun here. The perspective, new moon, the perspective play is fun with the bug looking huge compared to the landscape because it's on the glass. Was there an Edgar Allan Poe story where the narrator describes a huge monster crawling? Ooh, Arian, was there an Edgar Allan Poe story where that sounds more Lovecraft to me, where the narrator describes a huge monster Crawling. That sounds more Lovecraft than Poe to me. We're thinking about it. I'm throwing that one to my husband, who this is his sort of genre of reading. See what we can come up with. The Sphinx. Were you thinking of the Sphinx? Um, is that Edgar Allan Poe? Interesting. Or was it the book The Shadow of the Sphinx by Harry Houdini?
The Conqueror Worm.
The Conqueror Worm. What's that?
A poem featuring a blood-red crawling monster that symbolizes death and the inevitable destruction of humanity.
By Edgar Allan Poe?
Yeah.
You are good. He's called the Bloodworm?
The Conqueror Worm.
The Conqueror Worm. You are good. I do not know that one. I think I stopped at Annabelle Lee. The romantic ones. That is great. That is great. You know what? I'm going to read it later. I bet the fact that you remembered it, right, means that it's got something, right? It has something to it that's like really memorable across the landscape, but it's really a tiny bug on the window. That's a great point, because that's part of the humor of this piece, is that we're looking out and you feel like you're looking at branches. I mean, a lot of people could look at this piece, just clock it as branches, not really get why there's a circle, and move on, right? That would be very easy to do. We're spending time on it, so we didn't do that. But you're absolutely right. There is something so funny about this tiny, tiny little bug, that the only reason he looks so big is because he's so close up. It looks like the world is going to end in this, doesn't it? So funny. The tree line not being horizontal, like the window frame, was smart for movement. Diane, you are absolutely right. We had a little bit of this talk in the previous episodes, putting something slightly on a diagonal, right? And it's obviously on a diagonal because the window is gridded for us, right? So thanks to Mary, the window is gridded for us. And for that reason, we can see a lot of things plainly. We can see that the slope of green, right, coming down is a diagonal. The water is a diagonal, and you're right. The little bar of distant trees or land is also diagonal. Hey, MC Peculiar, good to see you. It's all on a diagonal. And that's so interesting as well. The proportion here and the perspective is a great joke, and everything being on the diagonal creates a very wonky world, a very cartoony and informal world. And I love that, because from the window everything should be squared, but it's not a squared view. Her work is so serious in its greatness. A walking stick, absolutely. I know it, right? And yet she's so literal in other ways, right? In my opinion, she's gonna be one of the most important, like in the top 5 most important rug hooking artists for this generation. She really will be. And it's not necessarily because she's a gallery artist, it's because her work so consistently tells different stories, but using similar props, right? There's a cohesiveness and a style to her work. It is going to make her eternal. Even if she wasn't a gallery artist, say she mostly taught, she did teach, but say she mostly taught or whatever, or she was just a hobbyist, her work would still be super important because of all of these things that she does that are just very, very different. That makes me think I should really be talking to her about Tigger. I really should. She really is so different. All right, so walking stick, we loved you. Let's move on to jewel beetle. It definitely looks like a jewel, doesn't it? This is great for Valentine's Day coming up. The jewel beetle's beauty is widely known, an iridescent exoskeleton like a precious stone. Each section of its shell a work of art, a kaleidoscope of colors playing its part. It scuttles through leaves on the forest floor. The jewel beetle sparkles, hard to ignore. Preferring a diet of things that decay, it recycles nutrients to save the day. Oh, such a beauty. So let's find out who hooked this piece. Michelle Miccarelli. I should have known because of the colors, right? I should have known. Michelle Miccarelli of New Haven, Connecticut. This is so her, isn't it? I mean, the crazy colors. She loves to do, well, she always has to have her rainbow colors in there. That's just something she does. It has to blast color. So that's a great signature thing of hers. She always does semi-realism, right? It's a little bit realistic, but it has a real graphic stylization to it. It's not just like full on realism. It's like it's got style, right? It's got style above photographic realism. And she always does a busy background, right? She can't help herself. She loves complexity, and she always does a busy background. Now, this piece is a lot different than ones we've been seeing. So let's talk this through. We are seeing an extreme close-up of the bug. The main things that we are learning, or that she wants us to know about the bug, are the colors, right? It being called the jewel beetle, but also the extraordinary colors, the glow of this thing. She wants that to come across, and that comes across very well, doesn't it? So she's showing us a close-up of the bug, the shell, the body, the big fly type eyes, even the legs are very colorful. So she's got the point across, right? It's very clear that this bug is a super, super pretty, um, you know, jewel-like bug, right? Hence the name. So she's satisfied with that, right? This is, I think, what the thinking is here. She's, and I know her quite well. I don't live that close to her anymore, but we will see her again for sure. I think she feels like that she battened down the hatches with that. That's secure. The bug looks the way she wants it to look. So I think she moved on to one of her classic Michelle Miccarelli backgrounds, busy background, right? She loves pattern. She loves a regular pattern. She loves a naturalist background, right? You don't see her doing like a wallpaper print, like a repeat print background. She likes a naturalist background. If you think about like her mermaids and her sort of mythical stuff, it is, again, semi-realism, but very reliant on nature's own patterning. And this is no exception. So we've got sort of earth colors blended very well, but in a very busy backdrop. I mean, this isn't, she hasn't gone for extreme contrast here, right? And she often does it. And that's one of the things about Michelle that makes her work so edgy and so mysterious, because, she's a teacher, she's a McGowan teacher. But she is not one of the teachers who will say contrast, contrast, contrast. She doesn't do that. Her main style of teaching is like, what's the story, right? It's very story driven for her. What's the story you're trying to tell? Once the story is down and you have got that part of the composition stable, right? As the bug is stable, he's really big. He's super clear. That's good. We're set. Now you can really do what you want with the background, right? Because if you look at this quickly, the bug is very colorful and he stands out very, very well. The background is busy. It doesn't make a huge difference in terms of tonal value and contrast. There isn't a huge difference between the background and the bug. Yes, the color palette changes, but the busyness, right, the complexity of the fills, whether it's the bug's back or the background colors plural, they're both busy, right? You can't say like, well, the bug is pretty solid and the background's busy, or vice versa. They're both busy. So this is something that you have to have nerve to try. And Michelle always does this. So if you look through her work, you see proof that it can be done, right? You really need to have confidence, because this can work. She has been careful. She's got a very colorful bug, right? That's wild, jewel-like, fiery colors against a background that is all neutrals, right? There's a tiny bit of green in there, but we're looking at browns, blacks, beiges, and grays. And those are all neutrals. Browns are neutrals as well. So we're looking at neutrals versus really electric colors. And that is the contrast. Contrast doesn't have to be the opposite sides of the color wheel. Contrast doesn't have to be dark versus light. Contrast can be anything, right? The neutrals are kind of the opposites, right, of really bright colors. That's contrast too. You could have done, you could have had bright colors for the bug and had like, because these are really sort of primary based colors, right? We're looking at a lot of yellow, red, and blue. So, I mean, that kind of holds it in place. Also, the shape of it is very strong, right? We see that heart shape very strong. And a heart is one of those ancient designs, like prehistoric designs that we will immediately recognize. And we realize this is all one motif. So looks like tree bark to you. You know, it could be tree bark. It's shown horizontally, but it doesn't mean that it's not tree bark, right? It could be like a fallen tree, or it could just be that it's easier to show it this way. Could absolutely be tree bark, right? He could well be crawling up a tree. It looks like tree bark to me too, because that would mean that that green is moss, right? So, and you know, that makes a lot of sense because the orientation of all of the bugs in this book is landscape. None of them are portrait. And that's a space thing because Leslie and Yvonne wanted you to see them as large as possible. So I think you're absolutely right. I think that is a tree, not a rock or ground. That makes way more sense. But do you think it works? I mean, do you feel like, yeah, it works, even though they're both busy. The motif is busy and the background is busy. Do you feel like you could do a piece like this where you would dare to try something like this? Where you were you were trusting that choosing a different color palette was going to make enough contrast for the piece to really be striking and to read well. Absolutely. I agree. And you know what? There's no right answer. It's not a yes or no. It's a matter of opinion, right? Background looks like it's flowing past a stationary insect. Possibly. What I meant by energy. Yep. Energy, motion. Oh, interesting how almost all of the energy and motion is coming from the background rather than the beetle. I'm sorry, I missed that comment. There is a lot of motion in the background, and that is interesting. That is interesting. Let's, for S's and G's, let me just unlock this and hold on one second. I'm going to turn it and make it smaller and turn it. Let's just look at it sideways. Let me rotate it this way. Now I've got to, wait a minute, unlock it. Let's look at it this way, just out of curiosity. You know, that makes a lot of sense to me like that. That really makes a lot of sense to me. And you know what's crazy is when you look at it like this, the bug stands out way more. I don't know why, but doesn't the bug look bigger when it has a portrait orientation versus a landscape? I mean, that's like an optical illusion, isn't it? Because when we had it sideways, I felt like the bug was quite small because the sides, right, were there was so much on the sides next to the legs. But when you look at it this way, the sides kind of slip away from you, which does make me think tree trunk. It seems like they're falling away like rounded. And there is hardly any space top to bottom that's extra space. So we are really looking at that bug close up. Isn't it funny how much that matters? Sharon, great to see you. The other colors in the background and the bug would not, other colors in the background of the bug would not pop out. So you like this background. You like having the neutrals as the background. You know, it has a real sketchbook quality, doesn't it? Because we believe that the bug is these colors, right? I mean, it's like real life is crazier than fiction kind of coloring on this bug. We believe that the colors are this crazy. And we recognize the form in the background as being a tree or being something, it's a piece of nature, right? He's on some piece of nature. We don't know the scale of the bug, so we don't know how big this is. I would guess this is a pretty dang big bug, wouldn't you say? Somehow it's not that scary because it's so pretty. If it was, for example, black and brown, that would, with like a cobra pattern on its back, that would be a different story. It's absolutely extraordinary. And I love that trick of tipping it the other way because honestly, that makes a different composition. He looks so different. I think this is smart all around, Fire Love. I agree. And you know what? It's a great reminder that when you are working on your pieces, if they're pieces that don't have an obvious orientation, it's worth just spinning them around to see. You never know. You never know what you did. Did I do that? You never know what you did, right? When you turn something around that's like an abstract or something like this that could go it could go in any direction. It could go in all four directions, right? He could be also pointing down. So interesting to think how different the overall effect and impact is when it's pointing in a different direction. Vertical makes the insect way more prominent, doesn't it? How our mind processes, that's exactly what it is, isn't it? How our mind processes it. Somehow seeing something sideways, it's like, oh, there he goes. But somehow seeing it head on, it's like, oh, there he is, right? It's like he's kind of like, you're more confronted with it when he's top to bottom like this. It's a completely different composition. Can't remember how it was hung at the show. If you really love these bugs, remember that when I was at Tigger it was not last fall, but the fall before, it was 2024, right? It was fall of 2024. Tigger Niagara, I did a video. I did at least one video of these bug rugs. So you could always go back and look for Tigger, Tighr, Niagara Falls. And I posted several videos, at least 3 or 4 on that trip. But you'll see in one of them, I was looking at the bug rugs. And then you'll see the scale, the size of them. And you might see some of the ones that we talked about, right? So that's just more content, more in your face. It is more in, you're absolutely right when it hits you like that. Because it's almost like it's like head up, like a human, right? It's like body down, face up. It's like confronting you the way that you are too, as opposed to just something skittering by, right? Weird. Our minds work like we're just such weird creatures, right? The way that we interpret. This one is, now for something completely different. They are all completely different. This one we're going to have completely different talks about. Let me find him in here. How could I be so out of order? Let's see. Oh, there he is. Okay, so this is Cecropia or Cecropia caterpillar. Cecropia. With a body, you know who this looks like, right? This looks like the hungry caterpillar, doesn't it? A little bit with a little added bling. With a body like velvet in green and black, munching leaves of trees found along his track, tiny openings called spiracles along its side. Air enters and exits in rhythmical tide. From its spinnerets, silk strands flow, weaving and winding the layers so slow, creating a chamber called a cocoon, transforming inside it by the light of the moon. Oh, that is so pretty. So let's see who made this one, and then let's talk about the composition. This one is by Lucy Quintal of Point la Nîmes of New Brunswick, Canada. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, why did this remind me of the hungry caterpillar? Not remind me, like I don't think that like she was particularly inspired by the hungry caterpillar. We're seeing a lot of circle shapes, and that does remind me of Eric Carle. I think just the creature reminds me of Eric Carle's, eternally iconic hungry caterpillar. You can't get away from it when you see a caterpillar. You can't help but think of that caterpillar because we've all seen that so many times in such detail. This is a very different composition. I love that this is like what we're looking at is the bug, right? So guess what we're being shown? The bug, right? Guess what's in the composition? The bug. What else is in the composition? Well, mostly the bug, right? This isn't a composition where she's playing with the background, that she's showing us a view, that she's sort of contextualizing this caterpillar on a leaf or in its habitat or on a trunk. She's really showing us this caterpillar in a sort of fantasy setting that plays with circles. Because think about the shape of this caterpillar, right? It's a bunch of little rectangles, right? It's a bunch of little rectangle units that are pieced together. And we know that it is a caterpillar, so we know how that works. It almost looks like a little plate of armor, right? We know what his body looks like. But this particular caterpillar has the extra prestige of having all of these little circles decorating its body. Some of them are called spiracles. The ones that make the silk strands like a spider are called spinnerets. So we're looking at spiracles and spinnerets, all of these little colorful dots on this caterpillar. Well, that is something really special about this caterpillar. What story do we want to know when we're talking about the Cecropia caterpillar? We want to know that his crazy body has all these colorful circles on it, right? We want to know a story about colorful circles. So she's telling us a background story about crazy circles too. She's showing us what his body looks like, and we look at the circles and go, wow, is there a creature that looks like that? Well, apparently there is, right? And then she's reinforcing the circular patterning on its body by putting him on this little mound of dirt, which in itself is interesting because for a little character like this, right? That's like he's got to make his way up and make his way back down. It's like a little mountain to him, isn't it? And underneath, we're seeing almost looking like geodes or looking like sort of cave facet quilt fabric. You know what I mean? We're seeing or looking like maybe more in our language pennies in a penny rug, right? Or cat's paw, right? In rug hooking, circles within circles are called a cat's paw pattern. That's a really old pattern. Whatever you want to call these circles, it has a bit of a graphic-y, designy. It feels like a bit of a joke, right? It feels like circles are playing on circles in this composition. We're seeing circles below. We're seeing circles in the body of the caterpillar. And then in the sky, a few more circles that are in blues, almost like circle clouds, right? The world has gone all circly. And the sun is a no-brainer, isn't it? That is going to be a big yellow circle, rounds of circles. But this sort of cross-section of a circle reminds me of both a geode, which again links us back to the sort of naturalist settings of so many of these rugs, but it also reminds me of cat's paw and pennies and things that we see every day in rug hooking. So it has a bit of humor for me because I feel like she's showing us both. She's giving us a lot of space above the caterpillar's back to show us this kind of picture book sky with the blue circle clouds and the yellow circle sun, right? She's giving us some breathing room because the caterpillar himself is quite busy. And notice how he is not cut off, but he's very tight inside the border, right? She really wants to emphasize the size of him, the weight of him, and he is the star, right? He is like, this is a cast of one. He is the star. But she's not showing it to us with like a lot of room around the edges of him. She really wants us to look at him. So she's showing us a design that's based on shelves or levels. First, we get the ground, and the ground is patterned with circles. Then we get a full shelf that's the bug because he takes us to both sides of the composition. There's nothing left on the two sides, right? It's just his face and his little bum. And then the next shelf or level is the sky. And in the sky, we see some more patterning, and it's repeat patterning. So the whole thing is super unified. Diane says, like a sedimentary cross-section of stone because worm is wedged to frame the edges. Because worm is wedged to frame the edges. Yes. Yes. I mean, composition-wise, this is very exciting. This is very exciting to me because we presume he's moving because he's made his way up this little hill and now he's at the crest of it ready to turn back down. So we assume that he is in motion. But there is a lot of energy in this piece as well because of all of the circles that we're seeing, right? It's creating patterning where we don't expect to see patterning. And to really cement the idea of patterning within patterning, the sky is very bare, but there's patterning. It looks like maybe it was done with a mottled gray and white, or maybe it was done with a very, very light textured white wool, like white and gray. Dormill does a lot of white wools that have gray plaid on them that are very light. Could be that. Could definitely be that. Or it could just be mottled like white or natural and gray. I tend to think it's wool, but patterned wool, textured plaid. But hard to tell without a closer up image. But she could have made the background white, right? Or gray, or any color. But she wanted it light. So let's say she could have made the background white. Somehow seeing out of focus more sort of the background looks spongy to me, right? Like it still has a circular feel to it. they're not pronounced circles like all the sort of geode shapes that we're looking at, but it still has a circular spongy feel to it. It's still patterning. This is a heavily patterned piece, but she was very careful about sticking with circles are her choice for patterning. We've got the character and we've got circles, and that's how it works. Really clever composition again. Beautiful tomato plant killer. I had some giant ones a few years ago. Very fascinating creature. Oh, really? And is it as colorful as this in real life? I like the little face on this too. Uh, oh, also a tomato lover, right? I mean, it's just a gorgeous piece, isn't it? You know, I have this rug. I think we have it out in the basement now. I think it's in the kids' area. I showed this to you in our old house. You know, it wasn't a hooked rug. It was like a commercial rug with like, you know, the monk's cloth kind of white backing on it. But I had, you know, and it looked like it was a brown rug with, it was just a cat's paw, big. And the entire rug looked just like the bottom, like the earth on this. It was, you know, I always had it down at my feet in the room where I recorded in the last house. And it reminds me of that only because it's cat's paw. And cat's paw is a great favorite of rug hookers. I think this is so clever. I think it's so clever to think to yourself, I'm going to take a long, skinny caterpillar and I'm going to do a composition that is completely reliant on lots of circles. You know, making that kind of jump, right? Confidence, making that kind of jump in your mind is what makes a great composition. Because you could say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do something with the caterpillar. So what can I put in the background? Maybe I should do lots of like long stringy things, right? To kind of mimic the shape of the body or not, right? Or something completely different, like no repeat shapes, right? But a lot of circles. If she had put the caterpillar on a lot of leaves, right, that were shaped like this, that would be maybe confusing, right? I don't know. I'd have to see it. But putting it against this fantasy backdrop with all of these colorful circles, it gives it it reminds me, not just because of Kay Facet, but it reminds me of quilts too. Do you know what I mean? Like it looks like it could be an applique quilt as well. I was awestruck by them until I realized what they were doing in my garden. Yeah. Oh, so many of them are so beautiful, right? But you realize they're doing like such naughtiness. Same thing with birds. Ever since we've been feeding the birds, what was it? The grackles, Arian, who came today? The grackles, yeah. You know, we were at my mom's house this weekend, and we were seeing the I don't know if they're called grackles in the U.S., but they're like it's like a European bird that have these like, you know, they're little fat brown bodies and like a kind of tigery feathery pattern, and they've got super sharp beaks, and they hang out like classic Hitchcock style in a tree, like a million of them, and then they come swooping down, like the sky turns dark and they come swooping down, and then all the other birds go, even the jays who are like so aggressive, they go because if they come and then with their long beaks they like peck on everything. But I'm getting more tuned into how some of the birds, because I love all of them, I mean, not, I don't dislike any of them, and the creatures who come, you know, on the porch because we feed everything, and while the bears are sleeping, but I do start to notice that some are like more disruptive or destructive, or and I imagine it's the same kind of thing in a garden where you go, oh, I love that thing, I love when that thing visits, but there's consequences, right? Like I'm starting to get that. I've never been a person who enjoyed nature. I have to admit I'm an indoor cat, but lately in this house on the side of a mountain, I'm paying attention to nature more, and these things are yeah, commonalities, I think. Rita, good to see you. Yes, grackles. My cat is scared of them. I'm not surprised. They are they're fighters. They started fighting in the sky, right? Like Pokemon. They started fighting in the sky, and one of them they forgot, I guess, that they were right next to the big window in my mom's living room, and one of them banged into the window with its beak, and I thought, oh no. He's totally fine, right? It's just like, yeah, it was a fierce fight. It was like really a fierce fight. I think they're really cute and beautiful, though. And I mean, hey, they're hungry too, you know. All you can eat buffet at my mom's house, in our house too. Oh, did you put out birdseed for them? Okay, good. Yeah, because we haven't been here for a couple of days. Ooh, look at this one. All right, there's going to be lots to talk about here. Let me see if I can find this one. Here we go. Oh, you know what? I take it back. This is the only one I have seen in the book. Unless I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know, I wonder if some of these are supposed to be, see, it doesn't say. The only reason I know that this one goes like this is because, like, it's him, right? And it's got text. But now I'm wondering, right? I really think the one on the tree, the rainbow beetle, and I think this one too, right? I think some of them are like this. But then it's really obvious, whereas some of them aren't that obvious, right? I think we'll come to this one later. That's another one. I'm just not sure. Anyway, let's come back here. Let's stick with him for a minute. This is Rainbow Grasshopper. Look at little old Rainbow Grasshopper. Here's his poem. Where the wildflowers bloom in meadows so bright, this herbivore eats plants and basks in the light. A melody chirped as it hops from each blade, a symphony of colors, a meadow serenade. Its striking colors so bold in the sun, a warning for predators, they better run. Somehow they know to avoid this bright prize, for the rainbow grasshopper holds a toxic surprise. Ooh, so let's see who made Rainbow Grasshopper. Has anybody seen Rainbow Grasshopper in real life? Oh, there he is. Russ Nichols of Arizona, USA. Russ Nichols. I'm going to look at my larger view because he's so small on my screen. This is another extraordinary composition. So this is a very daring composition. We are working on the Michelle McErley principle right now that this character, Rainbow Grasshopper, is so striking, right? Color-wise is so striking. And Russ has hooked this thing in exquisite detail. I mean, look at the fine patterning in this thing's body and its antennae. Everything is like really fine. The little eye, you can see the sparkles in the little eye. You know, in terms of the colors of this thing, it is super colorful. It is heavily patterned. And I say this also spins on the Michelle McErley principle because it is a very ornately patterned bug that can hold its own, right? We're looking at the patterning going, everything that's orange or looks like a zebra is the bug. Everything else is the background. So we can see that this bug is kind of clawing onto a stalk of grass or bamboo or some kind of greenery, some kind of green stalk, right? And in the background, we see not just text, but we see a very abstract naturalist background that is fairly monochromatic. We are looking at greens, right? And let's talk about the background again in a second. But for the most part, we're looking at greens. Now, this is a more, if you're remembering back to Michelle's, the colorful beetle, right? The rainbow beetle. And this is the rainbow grasshopper, right? So that's curious because they both decided with two totally different animals in two totally different parts of the country, two different insects, to do the insect with the really crazy colors, very, very colorful, right? Letting those colors really come through, be very, very clear. And they both chose to blast out the background with a quite busy background. Very unusual. Michelle's was more blended, right? It was more of a hit or miss feel. This is very abstract, but it works the exact same way. We are looking at mostly greens in the background, and they are the opposite. They are so not blended that we are looking at a color-blocked background that has moments of hit or miss, right? But the moments of hit or miss aren't coming super close to the insect, right? So it's not confusing the eye. It's a really another high energy, very dynamic background. The exception to the background being monochromatic is the top right-hand corner where we see such a dark, like a dark brown that's almost a black. My photograph looks a bit lighter because, again, it's a photograph of a page of a glossy book. But that color in the northeast corner is the same exact color as that triangle of dark right between the grasshopper's hind legs. So that's the same color. It doesn't look like it in your photo the way that I took a picture of the paper page, but it is the same color. It's like dark black, brown. It's almost black. So that is the exception. And isn't it funny, the two places that Russ chose to put that really dark value, besides the border, besides the outer border, The grasshopper has it, but as far as the patterned background, we're seeing it in those two places. That's really curious because look with your eye. You go down the stalk, right, where the grasshopper's clinging. You go down, you come back up on a diagonal on another shoot that is that light sort of white color, right? So it's making like a V pattern. It's dragging you down and it's dragging you back out. When your eye comes back in, it's giving you that dark value right between the grasshopper's legs and then in that far northeast corner, right? Before your eye leaves again, it's doing a matchy match, right next to the insect, and then right as you exit at the top left, because nothing is at the top, I'm sorry, top right. Nothing is at the top right. You're looking at the bug, then you're going down, and then you're going up in a V, but nothing is in that tippy top corner. So it's interesting to drag that color out there, and he's dragging the patterning out in a series of bars, color blocked bars, right? We're seeing like green, we're seeing hit or miss, we're seeing like an army green, we're seeing a light kind of a sage green, and then we're seeing that last corner of that dark, dark, dark brown. He's dragging us there in bars. I mean, it does remind me of a collage, right? That background reminds me a lot of a collage. It almost looks like ripped paper. I mean, isn't that interesting? Because that just the idea of something being a collage reminds me of the Hungry Caterpillar again. And that's interesting to me because it makes me think, I wonder if you were going to do a design like this, right? Just hypothetically, and you were going to put in an insect or any motif that was insanely complex and busy. And you thought to yourself, the motif is entirely different than the background, right? These are two completely different conversations. I am not looking to unify them. I'm not looking to have them necessarily play off each other. I'm looking for them to be different and distinct and to each have their own vibe, right? He fits into the background because it's these naturalist colors. It's green colors. He fits into green colors because he's like in the forest or in greenery. So literally it makes literal sense, but the way that the handling of the insect versus the background are polar opposites. It makes me wonder if you were going to do something like this, if it would be a good composition idea to rip up a magazine, to do a collage and just rip up color and lay down collage pieces and then trace it as part of your composition and just work it hooked, work it in rug hooking medium, but thinking of it as pieces of collage. That would be really interesting because it would also give you cues for color values if you felt like what you laid out was successful. You have seen these bugs, the rainbow grasshopper growing up in the Texaco. Do we need to gas the car up or something? The Texas Mexico border. There are many beautiful and dangerous creatures down there. Ooh, that's so interesting because I don't know anything about that area, but I do imagine because of the climate that there are very different insects and creatures, but also dangerous ones. Of course, the more colorful they are, the more dangerous they tend to be, right? I'm certainly not what do you call a doctor who is a bug doctor?
Entomologist.
Entomologist.
Yeah,
entomologist. Definitely not an entomologist. I'll say that. But in my mind, every time I hear about a bug that is really pretty and colorful, it's always like, oh, that one's deadly. Stay away from that one, right? Oh, wow. So another beauty. Very, very different. You see what I mean about this book? How every composition is really different from the one before. Let's see who this is. I'm going to get cracking because we have a few left, and I don't really want to leave any behind. Hang on. Let's see who this is. Another beauty, right? Okay, here he is. This is the Madagascar sunset moth. Transparent wings, but why so bright? Wings' tiny scales reflect the light. So pretty, Victorians desired their wings to adorn their jewelry like bracelets and rings. Their gorgeous colors warn their prey, do not come close, stay away. For if you dare to try to eat me, if you dare to try and eat, you'll find that I am a rather poisonous treat. So again, another beautiful, colorful creature that is poisonous. So much going on here. I'm gonna have to open this one up too. I can see. Let's see who made this one first. The Madagascar sunset moth, done by Kay Lefebvre of Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. Whew. I mean, this is such a beauty, isn't it? Now, this is one of the more complex designs that we've seen. How does this composition work, right? In short, in a nutshell, how does this work? We know who the main character is, right? This is very obvious. Who's the main character? It's the Madagascar sunset moth. Theory is he has a huge piece of real estate in this composition. He is enormous, right? And he's a little bit tipped, right? He's tilted a little bit, which is giving him a little bit of motion. He's super colorful again. He's very high contrast to the background. How's the rest of the composition working? Well, we've got 4 other elements at play here. On the bottom right, and these look like they are appliqued to me. On the bottom right, we have a caterpillar, right, who is similar colors, right? He's got the black and white from the moth's wings. And then we have, so he's on the right-hand side. On the top, bottom, and left-hand side, we are seeing 3 like sort of tropical flowers, right, with these big fuzzy stamens sticking out. And the reason I could immediately tell, even small, that these are appliqued is because of the detail of them. You can see that they are stitched on, right? So I think the caterpillar is stitched and those 3 flowers are stitched. So we have this main motif, the moth, tipped a little bit, just enough to keep it interesting. And then in the 4 gaps, right, north, south, east, and west, we have 4 other things to look at. 2 of the same flower. The one below is a cluster of different flowers. That's a different flower. So we still, in 4 different places, in the 4 different sort of gap areas, we have 4 other things to look at. But it's not all matchy-matchy, is it? Kay has positioned them very thoughtfully, so it's not matchy-matchy. So those are the 4 supporting characters. Now, beyond that, we have a kind of theatrical backdrop where we are looking through a kind of wreath or a border of the edges of leaves, right? They are very obligingly just tips in, showing the tips of them, and there is a little gap. They're leaving a little gap of blue sky in the middle so that Madagascar sunset moth really stands out against the blue sky. So what's going on here is there is a border that has a storytelling value, right? It's tropical leaves, right? So it shows you what kind of plants would be in this insect's environment or habitat. And then we are seeing the insect, and then we are seeing some of the other things that you might find in the habitat, these specific flowers and this caterpillar, right? So this moth is the main character, but there's a supporting cast here. And the composition really is working overtime to make this successful. Although the border of leaves has a great variety of greens, right, both warm and cool greens, it's a background feature. The moth itself is the star. This is a super colorful insect. This has transparent wings. The fact that it mentioned Victorian jewelry, I'm picturing jewelry that I have seen in antique stores, almost iridescent. If it's the same, moth that I'm thinking of, I'm thinking of lockets and places that I've seen this, and it's almost iridescent, like it looks metallic. It's so shiny, these butterfly wings. I can see why the Victorians were interested in this insect, sadly, because it's absolutely stunning, isn't it? Of course, they were very interested in the natural world as well, and they were very interested in taxidermy and keeping parts of the natural world, right? To be fair, it was a different time, and they had the feeling, particularly, since Victorian culture is obviously centered in England, where Victoria and Albert were, the whole sort of culture at that time, Britain, ruled a third of the entire world, right? They were colonizing all over the place, and it must have felt at that time that all of these new discoveries were very exciting, number one, and number two, that everything was limitless, right? Like, sure, let's kill some dodos and make some taxidermy. let's get the moths and the butterflies and turn them into jewelry because everything is infinite, right? Everything was new, and it must have felt like that. So you cannot obviously judge, how insects and animals were used at that time according to our standards of today, because it was a different time and it was a different world. But this certainly looks like a beautiful, beautiful moth. I know moth is a 4-letter word for us, but I think this isn't one that you would find in the closet, right? Snacking on your sweaters or your wool stash. Rita says, my mom had those grasshoppers in her front yard. We still get them in Florida. Oh, the rainbow grasshopper. Gail says your husband does come in very handy. Well, sometimes he does. He just gave me a nod for that. Yes, he's very, very smart. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Don't forget about that Edgar Allan Poe, by the way. I want to look at that later. This is my favorite one. This next one's my favorite. Oh, no, wait a minute. I love this one. But this is the one I thought was next. I do love this one. What artist, while I search, what artist does this one remind you of? If you had to name an artist. While I search for this one in the book. Let's see. Where is this one in the book? My God. There he is. Okay. Ooh, how strange is this? Kramer's 88. Kramer's 88. That's what this bug is called. Kramer's 88. Kramer with a C, not like Seinfeld Kramer's. Gliding through forest canopy with grace and ease, a butterfly of wonder in the whispering trees. A symbol of good luck if you see one by chance, sipping nectar in a delicate dance. Adorned on its wings a design so ornate, an infinity symbol or a number 88. Ah, I get it. See it? This symmetrical pattern so bold and divine in the heart of the rainforest where lives intertwine. These poems are fantastic, Kaz. That's what I was thinking. It reminds you of Escher. Absolutely it does, doesn't it? Because we are seeing some serious tessellation. Tessellation! We are seeing some... tessellation is when you take a motif and you tip it and you spin it until it creates an optical illusion. But you cannot tessellate or spin, rotate the image in so much that you obscure the full shape, right? You have to maintain the full shape in a tessellation, otherwise it's not literally a tessellation. Anyway, I think we did a design like on Escher too. This is really curious because we are looking at we don't have any supporting information here. First, let's say who made this. And then we'll look at this really, really striking composition. Liz Alpert Faye. Okay, remember we went to talk to Liz Alpert Faye recently too. If you like this piece, look back in the ribbon candy hooking videos, because this past summer I went with Haley Perry of Loop, of Loop by Loop, to I forget the name of the place. It was like in New Canaan, Connecticut. But we saw Liz Alpert Faye's show, Extraordinary Women. You'd love that video. And she's amazing. She's another amazing person, isn't she? Kramer's 88. What's so interesting is we're seeing two different, these have to be butterflies, right? Because Kramer's 88 doesn't tip us off as to like whether this is a moth or a butterfly. So I'm going to assume it's a butterfly, and I have no reason for assuming that. But I'm guessing that there are two varieties. Could this be male and female? I don't know, and it does not say. But this has to both be the same thing, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if butterflies and moths look different male to female. I don't know. But I guess we should focus most of our attention on the butterflies that are red with that 88 pattern. You know what I mean? So the bottom half of the butterflies or moths that are red and white, you see in the bottom half of their wing, there's like circles with circles within them. And yes, it does look like an 88. So I guess Kramer must have discovered this species and named it after himself, Kramer's 88. So interesting, because this composition is about multiples, right? So almost all of the compositions that we're seeing in this book, so far, they've all fallen into two categories. Main character is the entire is the entire composition, right? Here's the main character. Let's look at him. And then there's a background. That's the most common one that we see. Very few of them have a composition that's like, here's the main character and there's a few supporting characters, right? We don't see many of those in this book. This is a total departure because it's like, here's a ton of them. Look at them. Here they all are. So I think the fact, this is a very graphic composition, and it's a very pop art composition. It borders on op art, which is optical art, right? It plays with your eye. It plays with the idea of cropping. It wants you to put together puzzle pieces. It's like that game that is like a little plastic flat thing with moving tiles, and there's one that's empty, and you have to use your thumb to move them to the right place, and then you try to make the picture by moving them all, and it's always impossible. You know what I mean? That's how this piece is working. That's the principle of this piece. Your eye wants to slide the tiles to put them together in the right order. New Moon says upper side is, oh, interesting. Upper side is black with iridescent blue bands at the margins. Underside, thank you. Underside of the forewing is red. Hindwing is white with a black outlined 88 or 89. Thank you. It is the same bug. They look different top to bottom. That is so unusual. And it's so cool that Liz thought to make a very sort of Escher/Warhol-esque, because it's Warhol in that it's super graphic and it's optical art, but it's also primary colors, right? And it's color blocked. So really unusual composition. It messes with your mind to some extent, but we're seeing enough of each unit that we understand immediately what the shape of the thing is and what we're looking at. And then it becomes this wild kind of a swarm. Of course, it helps at the bottom that we're seeing the top and bottom of each one. So you're seeing what they look like in their entirety. Warhol came to mind initially for you too because of the graphic colors. Absolutely. You know, it's such a clever composition. It just gives you a completely different idea of something to do. Now, I don't think that you could do this with many of the bugs that are super complicated and super colorful. Like this would not work, would it? That you cut them up and kind of had them in pieces. It only works because this is like a small insect. And when it's a little bit cropped, you can still tell what the insect is. That's the only reason it worked. Otherwise, this scale would be very confusing to look at, right? And yeah, this is puzzling to look at, but graphically, it's super interesting. The black and white also give it this real flavor of a woodcut. You know what I mean? I can't help but I'm really drawn to the black and white parts because they're so crisp. It reminds me of a woodcut. This would be a lot of fun to make because you'd constantly be having the conversation with yourself about color placement, right? If you chose to break it down like this, it would then become a game of where do I place what colors? And you notice there's a band of color at the top and the bottom. And again, the fact of both butterflies being complete at the bottom helps a ton. Leah, great to see you. Well, I can imagine how, because the Olympics and the Super Bowl are on, right? You sitting there with your miner's lamp on your head, like watching while the game was on, thinking of that photo of you on Facebook. Happy weekend. It's great to see you. This one is extraordinary. We could have done a whole episode about this one because there's so many devices going on here. But at the end of the day, the I think impression that you take away is like a lot of busy flapping of these little guys and motion, right? You see the undersides and right sides to their wings, and there's lots of busy flapping, and it's almost like this swarming effect. Oh, you were watching the Muppets with your daughter. I was completely wrong with my guess. Sounds super fun. This has been a great episode, though, Leah. The ones we're looking at again are amazing. I'm going to keep going because there's more, and I don't want to give up too many because I already gave up lots, knowing that you all are going to get this book, right? This is the orb spider. The orb spider. Orb weaving spiders create intricate webs with radial lines and sticky threads. They patiently wait in the center to feel. A sign of vibration means a tasty meal. Silk stronger than steel, yet light as a feather, their webs can endure all types of weather. Babies hatch, then disperse on a strand into the world who knows where they'll land. This one is so unusual too. Look at the detail. I'm going to find out who made this one. The orb spider, Chris McDermott. I should have known, I was just talking to her yesterday. I should have known that Chris did this. And you know why? Because she is the braider extraordinaire, of course. And she does so much sort of interplay between hooking and braiding. This is really what she's known for. She's a phenomenal hooker and an equally phenomenal braider, and she loves to put these two together. She loves to experiment with different materials, right? And this is a great example of combining braiding and hooking, because if you look at the border, it's got it's color changing, and it's got a double braided row, right, for the border. But you see how where the braids butt up against the hooked piece, it matches, right? Like that's going to take some planning, isn't it? And the fact of it, so you see the hooked piece in the center, you see this sort of innocent house and this pretty window box with the cute flowers growing up out of them and light in the window, very friendly light inside the window. Someone's busy in there. You see some brick work on the side, or maybe it's the chimney. And then we kind of exit into the night and the greenery, and there's a little greenery below, some flowering shrubbery or flowering plants. And then we see, right, so this is a composition that kind of combines things, right? Obviously, the main character is the orb spider because we're looking at a very three-dimensional orb. But it's very hard with this piece to not become obsessed and immediately interested in the braiding, because that braiding is creating such patterning, such fine and regulated patterning in the border. So let's look at, so you can't miss the border, right? And do you notice that it looks like there's different materials too? Like I'm seeing some shiny solid material as well as some patterned wool and solid wool, as well as the shiny. So that's creating kind of a luminescent effect as well. Like very, very cleverly done. So kind of superimposed on top of this gentle nighttime story is this busy orb spider in his web. It looks like there are some babies here who are maybe going to slide down the silk and land somewhere and make their way home. How is the braiding joined to the hooked rug part? It's joined with stitching, and this is its own craft, right? So this is traditional braiding that she's doing. So this is three-stranded braiding, but she's got two borders. So this is not like one piece. It's two pieces together that she's laced together and sewn to the border of the hooked piece. This is its own craft, and this is its own class. I can guarantee you in Tigger, we will be doing stuff with braiding, because a lot of people lately have been loving, and this is not a new thing, have been loving doing smaller pieces like chair pads, things like that, even like a mouse mat or a mug rug, and braiding around the edge, just to experiment with combining braiding and hooking. So certainly Chris is, she is, in my opinion, the best known person for bridging those two worlds, hooking and braiding. And at the last Tigger, she was one of the speakers who got up and talked to us about a technique, right? She was part of a night of technique class where she told us some of the sort of secrets to doing sort of multimedia techniques and how she pieces stuff together, sort of the technical stuff that she does to get some of the effects that she gets for things that she had hanging in that particular show. She really is a master. So it's the simple answer is it's attached by stitching. A more difficult answer would be it is a whole new world if you were wanting to put braided edges around your piece, within your piece. Do you notice that there's also braiding happening in the center of the orb, right up the orb, the web, not just in the borders? If you've seen some of Chris's other pieces, they are so complex. The shapes of the braiding are not regular. This is a framed piece, right? But she has pieces that are very irregular shaped braided pieces. And then we are talking about different techniques, right? It's problem solving, different techniques for each specific project, respectively. But this is a conversation we should have more often. And I'd love to visit with Chris and talk about how she's able to combine these two things. I'd love to visit with her. And we have talked. She actually invited me to stay with her for a talk I have coming up. Um, and I will visit with her that day, but I think I'm traveling with my family on that trip. But I am really looking forward, as soon as the weather clears, to spend some time with Chris. She is such a warm person. She's like one of, everybody has different energy, and sometimes it's hard to read people, particularly in a big group. It's hard to read people. She's one of these people who, no matter how big the group is, and Tigger was a big group in Niagara Falls. She's somebody who, in any setting, you can tell from across the room, is she's super warm. Like she is always smiling. She's super warm. She just has this openness about her. Like I don't know anything about auras, but in my mind, hers would be like pink, like just warm and pink. She's very forthcoming with information too, and she's very interested in sort of stewardship and making in the legacy of both of these crafts. So I'd love to talk to her and see in detail how you do technical problem solving when you're combining something like hooking with rug hooking. Rita says, even the moon is braided. Yeah, you're right. The moon is braided. I didn't see that. Yeah, that is really pretty. So the braiding is couched on the backing of the fabric border. Yes. I mean, it's tucked in to the side of the loops. It's tucked into the height of the loops. This looks pretty straightforward, this one. Not all of them do, but this one does. So yeah, I would say it's couched right. I mean, it looks like it's couched right up against the edge of the loops. Yeah, I would say so. Don't ask me how she planned to color coordinate so exactly. I mean, she must have, that saying like measure twice and F it up 5 times. I don't know what the saying, but you know the saying that I mean. She must have had to micro plan. I mean, there aren't any loops that overshoot, right? She's got them all exactly. Don't ask me how she did that. She must have really planned forward to that. Otherwise, I guess if you made a little mistake, you could pull some loops out. It'd be easier to pull the loops out, even if the border was sewn on, than it would be to rebraid it, wouldn't it? Hooking is a lot more forgiving than braiding. But yeah, it's an extraordinary piece, isn't it? She has appliqued, I don't know what the material she's appliqued on is to make that web, but I would assume that it's like really thick felt. That's what it strikes me as. And it seems like it's like she's tinted it or dyed it. It almost looks like a cookie, doesn't it? It looks to me like a really thick wool felt. Maybe you feel differently, but I love the way that it's superimposed. I love the design on the spiders. I love the 3-dimensional quality of the spiders. It's a real piece of storytelling. It's a master class in combining techniques, but also the storytelling element is really strong, right? She's managed to stick to the assignment, but she's done a lot of extra stuff here that is really interesting to dissect. It really is an eyeful. It's really beautiful. I'd love to see this piece closer up, Again, you could watch back on the video from Tigger because it might be one that I stood closer to in the video. Those spiders are fantastic. They are. They are. You know what? I'm going to make a note for myself. I'll get together with her as soon as the weather is better. And let's answer some of these questions then about, easiest ways to do this combo, right? Even if you're a braider who you're like, I just want to do a simple braid and I just want to put it around the border. I don't want to become an expert braider, right? I don't want to learn like full lacing. But I just want to learn how to do a braid and put it onto the corner. That would be a conversation worth having, wouldn't it? Because just because you want to put a braided border on your piece doesn't mean you want to make a braided rug, right? That's like two apples and oranges talk. So let's see if we can, it could be felting, Sharon. It could definitely be felting. It looks really thick, doesn't it? And I saw a few curls hanging off of it. Heebie-jeebies, but it could be that. Now, I have to admit, this is my favorite piece in the book. Just because like the storytelling and the colors, right? I always love things that are like so whimsical. This is just so funny to me. This is Katie did. And she's reading a book that says Katydids. And Katydid's poem is, a katydid washes its face like a cat, gently grooming its features. Imagine that. This insect uses its legs to hear, for on each knee you will find an ear. They rub together their wings so light to create a symphony in the night. With wings that hum in colors so bright, from the treetops they sing in harmonious delight. Now, make sure. No, wait a minute. First, let me say who makes this, who made this one. Kelly Wright of Bavaria, Germany. Absolutely love it. Few things. Can you tell by looking at it that this is punch needle and this is the working side of the punch needle, right? This is not the pile side with loops. This is the working side. So Kelly Wright punched this piece and we are seeing the working side. Number one, that's really interesting to know, right? Because it gives us that texture and it explains the sort of movement that we're seeing. We are still seeing individual loops, but we're seeing the back of the loops, right? It's going to have a low pile because it's the working side. So what does that mean for us? Well, that means that that because the pile is so low, you're going to have the opportunity to do some fine tuning, right? With a needle and thread, with a hook, with whatever. But I think in this case, Kelly did it with a needle and thread. And I think what she did, I might be wrong. It might still be punching. It might still be punching, but super fine punching or even mini punching. But you see the black outlining here and there. It's not everywhere, but you see the black outlining here and there. That is so successful. It's you know what? It is punching. It is definitely punching. But I don't think, well, it might be a mini punch. It might be, no, I mean, I'm sorry. It might be a regular punch. Let me make it larger for a second. No, I think I got it. Hang on. I think the piece itself is punched with a regular punch, which is the larger punch, right? Not the worsted weight punch or the mini punch. It's the regular punch. It's the larger one. If we're talking about Oxfords, right? And I think that the black is done with the small one, right? With the worsted weight. So for Oxford, it would be like the 11, 12, or 13, like this tiniest one, right? Or the little one on heels. It's called, one of them, it says on heels. I think it's still the traditional punch, but I think for the black, she has put in like tiny yarn, like sock yarn, and she's punched with that. I don't think it necessarily has to be a mini punch. I mean, it might be a mini punch as opposed to a standard punch, but I'm not sure because in some places it looks a lot thicker. I don't know. It could also be that she punched the black outlining first, because if you look closely, the fact that it's thicker in some places and thinner in others, it feels like she punched with black first, and then she kind of, it was like close encounters. Subsequent punching really coloring in, really closed in on the black outlining and made it much thinner in parts. That's what it seems to me to be. You can see how the Katydid is reading a book called Katydids, like it's her sort of personal memoir, to a bunch of baby Katydids. You see them down below the book. It's like story hour, and she's sitting on the branch of a tree and she's reading to them the stories, right? Like old time stories of Katydids, and they're all listening. And there is a snake slithering up the tree. That's a bit ominous, but that creates a great effect at the same time, right? Because the background, this is a big, there's a big storytelling element to this, right? So it doesn't work the same way as any of the other ones that we were talking about. She has got a composition where the main character is certainly the main character, but the main character is seated on a very weighty tree that has two branches. And the fact of the second branch running parallel to the top branch where she's sitting makes it easy to see that there are more characters, right? You see that fast. But for me, I didn't see the snake as fast. He's kind of winding his way sneaky-like up the tree. Could be a reference to the tree of life, absolutely could be. It could be that reference. It could just be whimsy. It could be any sort of kind of storytelling. But it is interesting to have that kind of drama in there, or that's the sort of threat, right? There's an element of danger here, and the fact that his little tongue is sticking out too, right? He's more than interested. the background is really interesting here because you cannot call this a patterned background. It's way more detailed and busy. But the background is so, how does it work, right? The tree is very stable. The green leaves are very stable. We're seeing the dark night around the top. We're seeing a lighter blue behind katydid, which makes sense because that light blue field is connecting the adult katydid to the baby katydids. So that's helping to connect the relationship between those little characters. And the background are just swirls of complementary color, right? We're seeing lots of like dark greens and browns, but then in the background we're seeing these swirls of these kinds of citrus colors, like this kind of lemony green colors in the leaves behind her, but then these kind of citrus and fruity colors down below, creating so much interest. For me, this piece wouldn't sing as well if all of the leaves in the background were green, right? Somehow there's so much magic in this piece. It's like there is a universe of color and movement around the mama katydid or father katydid, because there's so much color there. And that's how it's easy to miss the snake, because there's her leg. If you look at her left leg, you swirl it up, it connects to the sort of crescent shaped swirl that separates the dark night from the inner blue field. That creates like a swirl, and the snake creates a swirl, and they're playing off of each other, but you don't immediately notice him, right? He becomes part of the story, right? He's a scary part of the story, but he becomes part of it. The fact that whatever the fruit is on the bottom right has like some kind of seeds or dots on it is fruity and interesting, right? It's such a lush background. It's all stylized colors and fruits, but come on, Buttons, can you come up, honey? Why are you having trouble jumping up? Come on. It's such a colorful, lush background. Kirsten, great to see you. New Moon, I think this is the only entry that is anthropomorphic. I just massacred that word, but yes, that we've seen. You know what? I can't think of any others. And isn't that fun? I mean, it's just so funny to make. Come on, baby. What's wrong? Come on. What's wrong, hon? Here he goes. Here he goes. It's so much fun to turn it into a story. Like the name katydid, for me has always been such a funny word, particularly when I was little and it was new. But it's like, Katie did what? You know, it's like, well, here it is in the book. Now we know. Come here, honey. What's wrong? Arian, can you get him on the chair? He's having like, oh, I see. Arian has cat lapitis. So there he goes. Those are not farts. That's the chair moving across the floor. No, Buttons is happy now. I love this piece. Kelly Wright did an amazing job with this piece. It is just a fun piece to look at. It's just luscious and interesting and exciting. And even though there's a bit of danger here, it's funny too, you know. Just love this piece. All right, let me see. Hang on. Oh no, there's so many more. Yeah, I'm getting really tired too. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, you know what? Oh, now we have to make a decision because I thought this would be the last episode. And I am moving really slow. I am moving really slow. And I'm sorry if I'm moving too slow. It's really hard. I'm finding it really hard to rush through these because there's so many opportunities. Using these rugs as examples, there's so many opportunities to have conversations about technical rug hooking, but also colors, you know. I'm having a really hard time rushing it. So, you know what? Let's do one more bugs tomorrow morning. Let's do one more bugs. I wasn't planning to, but I have, let me see how many more slides I have. I've never put more slides in. These are still the original slides I had a week ago. 1, 2, 3. I have 5 more. So why don't we look at the last 5 tomorrow? I was thinking, how am I ever going to get a show ready for tomorrow because it's tomorrow morning and I'm tired. But the answer is it is ready. So let's do this one more time. And again, I'm not showing you any more bugs than I was planning to show you on that first night. It's just I've gone very, very slow. And a lot of questions and conversations have come up, and I think they've all been valuable. So I've been tapping the brake like crazy, you know. So let's do that. Let's come back tomorrow and look at the last ones. Looks like I've missed these morning bugs. Oh, Joe, great to see you. Yeah, there are. There was there was a morning episode and there was a Friday episode where we looked at the bugs. Uh, Thanks. You know, it's some things I don't want to say we rush through, but sometimes we review a book and it's got a lot of technical information and I kind of go like, oh, you know, so on this chapter they're telling you how to punch and in this chapter they're telling you how to transfer a pattern. And sometimes that is how I approach a book because I don't want to give too much away, but also, you know, like it's beautiful, it's useful, it's a fantastic book, but we don't need to look at everything, you know. This is different because it's a picture book. So it's totally different. And I'm not able to answer the questions, what size is it, what cut is it? But I am able to say like, oh, let's look at this composition and let's talk about if you would do this and if you think that this could work, right? Because a lot of you, I think for one of the earlier ones said like, ooh, something with a patterned background that's super busy to look at, I would give it a try, right? Definitely worth doing the last 5 instead of skipping over them because they're different yet again. And I just want to remind you that you still haven't seen half of the book when we're done. So there's lots more to see. And if you do want to get this book, you can't just Google it. You're not going to find it there, right? If you do want to see this book, in the description of this video and the other videos we did on Magnificent Bugs and Rugs by Leslie Knight and Yvonne Eiten Scott, if you do want this book, check with Leslie Knight in Canada, and her info is in the description of this video, or write to Gail Dufresne if you are in the U.S. And I'm hoping that they both still have books because I know they've been selling a lot of books, and I think that's amazing. It's one of those things. Once it's gone, it's gone. Do you feel like you can live without this big, thick book of all of these amazing, you know, you could sit and fall asleep looking at one of them and studying it. I wouldn't want to be without it. It's an amazing book and it's a very high quality book. So we'll be back. Let me just check my calendar to be sure. I had a feeling like something was wrong with tomorrow, but what is wrong might be that I was worried I wouldn't have time. No, I have a meeting tomorrow night. Hold on one second. Rita, you just sent me a message. Let me see if I can. Yes, you're right. You're right. Kate Lefebvre would be a good person. You know, everyone in this book would be someone worth thinking about and talking to because these are all amazingly talented people, right? I mean, of the many amazingly talented people who are out there, right? That we're always celebrating, including you. But sometimes we don't always hear all of the names. You know what I mean? So it's nice to hear some different names with this project. And again, it was Canadians who put together this project, so a little bit of a different orbit, you know, than that. You know, I'm kind of like in the U.S. scene more, right, with a lot of crossover buddies, of course. But the people who I see in my daily rounds or events are different people. So it is nice to see and to say the names of people who did work in this book who we might be aware of, but we don't see them every day. And they are definitely worth talking about. Maybe you wrote down some names over the course of these episodes and you're going to go down the rabbit hole and check them out. I'm going to go down the Edgar Allan Poe rabbit hole and look for that poem. I want to read that before I go to bed tonight. But I will be back with you tomorrow. And we'll be together at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will look at those last 5 slides. It will take us an hour, I can guarantee you, because each one of these is so good. I felt like I was rushing at the end there. You know, I feel like I want to go look at Mary Tooley Parker's work again too, just because that one also struck me. And I want to look up Kelly Wright and see what she's been working on too. You know, when you see one that you really like, it's like, ooh, wait a minute, you wanna check that person and see what else they've been working on lately. You know. Anyway. Food for thought, lots of rabbit holes. Get some good rest. Enjoy the rest of the TV tonight. You were absolutely spoiled for choice tonight with TV, and I really appreciate you being here with me. I'll be back with you at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow when we really do conclude this book. And yeah, have a great night. In the meantime, I will see you all then. Oh, I'll look for that too. I'll see you soon.